Kevin, how are you,
Yeah,
man?
buddy. What's
Good to
going
see you
on?
again. Nice to see you
Yeah,
again.
it's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Let's I want to dig into what's going on with you right now. We'll get right to it because like I said, we don't have a lot of time with this stupid Zoom thing. It always cuts so soon, right?
You
L-
gotta love technology. I gotta correct a couple of things before we
Uh-oh.
actually dig into it. No,
Yeah.
no, no, no. It's all good. It's all good. Neil was not the oldest. Pat was the oldest, and
Oh
that was a
God.
mistake on my part. So I apologize, Mr. Busby. Sorry. Secondly, as you'll notice, my beard is a little shorter
Yeah.
because it was moving independently of my face. It could have actually had its own podcast.
It's almost as long as your hair, which I got to be jealous of. I mean, it's nice that you even still have that going on at your
I
young
don't
age.
know how. I don't know how that's happened, but
It's amazing.
I'm not gonna refuse it. That's for sure.
I'm glad to hear that Neil had a listen, checked it out, and I mean, if he obviously listened in detail, if he had to dig right into it and just make sure he had that little piece of detail just correct.
He's got he's that's Neil, right? He's always a
Yeah,
perfectionist, right? So there
yeah,
you go.
yeah. I got that impression. Yeah, cool guy to chat to, and so are you.
Well, I don't think I'm a perfectionist. I think I like to have a lot of fun, and I think that the last interview, watching it and the responses that I've gotten, it was great. So there's like I said, there's only a few things. So I don't think we'll be the whole 45 minutes this time, but there's only a few things, unless you have a ton of questions that you want to ask.
Let's find
There's only a
out.
few things that I really want to touch on.
All right, sounds good. Well, let me touch on Crowning Kings, of course. Now, I had a chance to kind of dig into the music and dig into the band a little bit. So I know we touched on a lot of things, like I said. So let's go right to get deep on Crowning Kings. So
Sure.
right after the band Punishment is when you went to Crowning Kings. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, it was there was probably a big space in between that, probably about a year and a half, where I didn't want to get into music, as I was telling you, right? So I didn't really want to do anything musically, after Punishment. So again, Mark, he was the bass player in Punishment, and he'd left and whatever. And so he was putting together something, and then he said, let's check it out. You want to do this? And I said, well, let me listen to it. And again, with the prodding of my wife, it was like that's what got me into Crowning Kings, and I haven't looked back since.
So you joined Crowning Kings. It was already established as a name as other members, or how did you get involved?
It wasn't necessarily Crowning Kings at that point. It was really just a band that Mark was putting together. Now he had recruited Darren and the other drummer Jason before Brent has joined. But anyway, I'll get to that. And Darren and Jason were already together, and Darren being the vocalist, who is amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
And and we kind of got together, and we jammed out the songs that they had. I think there was four or five, and it just kind of worked, and everything just went right together. And a couple of rehearsals, and away we went, and then started recording, then did some shows. And it's been a great thing so far.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I had a chance to check out the song Deceive, which has the video treatment as well, too, that people
Yep.
can check out on YouTube. So first time I saw a visual representation of the band.
Yep.
Talk to me about the video, where it was shot, how it was done, your part in it. What did you think of it?
Well, I love the video. I love that. I love being the performer guy, and I love doing all that kind of stuff because again, it's a lot of fun. And it was done where we were rehearsing at, and where we recorded that in the studio at I think it's the Watershed. It was called. I don't think it's there anymore. Um,
Is that in London, Ontario?
yeah, yeah, it is in London.
Okay.
The band is based out of London. I'm in Kitchener, so I'm the one who gets to
Oh,
drive
nice.
to the other three guys.
Nice.
So
Lucky you.
it's the
Yeah.
way it goes.
You make it work for
Um,
you. Yeah.
well, yeah, Mark drove from London to Toronto when we were doing Punishment, so you know what? It's
Wow.
only fair.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's like it was done in London at a place called the Watershed, and this is where we recorded it, and it was again, it was done. It was a lot of fun. I forget the name of the two guys that did it. I forget the name of the video company that did it, but they were really good, and they put it all together, and it just worked really well.
Was it who had the idea for the concept where it was in that warehouse where was you guys just doing a performance video? It was just the four of you. It was kind of a dark looking feel to the video as well too. Was that something you
Yeah,
already that you
yeah, that
wanted to
was
do or that's how it came out?
Yeah, no, that's something I think we wanted to do. I think we wanted to have it a little dark, a little grainy, black and white. Black and
Yeah.
white hides the wrinkles. So, yeah, we did it there. It was again, it was it was discussed amongst all of us of how we were going to do it. We decided it was just going to be a performance video as opposed to having, you know, a storyline or anything to it. So yeah, it went really well. One day shooting, and then they put it all together, and that's how they do it. I still don't know to this day how editing works and all that sort of jazz. I'm the guy who writes the songs. Don't ask me to record stuff. Don't ask me to edit, like do video editing. Don't ask me to do this stuff, because I'll be just like, what? You know, they might as well put a gun. Like if somebody had a gun to my head and said,
Yeah.
"Hey, edit this," I'd be like, "Shoot," right? Because
I'm stuck. I'm stuck. Yeah. Did you did you start writing right away with the band when you got into it? Did you start bringing songs? Did you have songs already to present to them?
Mark and I had a bunch of stuff from left over from Punishment, and he did the majority of the writing when I first stepped in, and so I just kind of added my guitar flavor to it. I mean, Mark is a brilliant writer, songwriter. You know, not necessarily lyric wise, but you know, as far as musical goes, he's brilliant at what he does. So I just basically put my 2 cents in on it and then worked on those songs. And then now, obviously, you know, we're bringing in tons of different riffs and all that kind of stuff. But to the initial point, I had written really none of it, and Mark did it all, and I just kind of just threw my flavor on it.
Yeah. So for people who haven't seen it, go check it out. It's over YouTube. It's over the band's. It's on the band's Facebook page, Crowning Kings. It's on the band's YouTube channel as well as Mark's YouTube channel as well. It's Deceive. Yeah. It's a great song, great vocal. Great guitar work from Kevin. The only my only complaint is not enough Kevin in the video. It focuses a lot on the singer. Darren, I think, is the singer, right? Oh, you think so?
Well, there's enough Kevin.
You have to go around all the band members. I thought, but I thought there was a little less Kevin. I thought that's okay. I guess he's kind of the dark member, the dark guitarist in the back.
I'm the guitar player with mystique.
Right? Yeah, that's the word I was searching for. I love it. Yeah. Exactly. So let me ask you this, Kevin. So this was your second swing of the bat as far as a band going after Slik Toxik. Of course, we talk a lot about Slik Toxik. People can go back and check it out in the other interview, part 1. We do extensively, obviously, talk about that. It's a big part of your career. Yeah, I'll mention a couple of things towards the end, but. So after Slik Toxik, we know that you took a break from music. You were doing other things. When you finally got back into music, it was with Punishment, and now you're doing that with Crowning Kings.
Well, no, when I first got back into music, it was actually with Automan and Daryl Miller. That was the first foray into that.
Yes.
And there was a couple of other bands in there, but the Punishment and Crowning Kings are the ones that are really standing out on all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely a leap, but it's something that is very, very familiar to me. And it's very, very, you know, like it's one of those kind of things that it's like putting on an old pair of shoes, you know, getting into a band, you know exactly what you're kind of going to get into, except for Crowning Kings. There's really no like egos in this band. There's nothing. It's just, we just go and we make a whole lot of noise for a bunch of old guys. And that's it. I mean, we have a whole ton of fun at what we're doing. We actually have a show this Friday, on Friday the 13th in London. I don't know if anybody's going to be, I don't know if we'll get this out before then, but my whole day or evening tonight is changing guitar strings, which is my favorite thing to do.
You don't miss that part.
Yeah, you know, I miss text for that. That was, you know, that was all the big thing. I hate doing it, but it's got to get done. So we got a show coming up on Friday, which is going to be great. And then, you know, who knows, in probably in a few months' time, we'll be back in the studio doing some more recording. You know, we usually like to go in these 4 bunches, so we'll go like 3 and then 4 and then 4 and then, you know, do it that way. It's sort of a cost-effective way and keeping things out. Like, you know, it's a singles market these days. It's
it's back to the 60s almost, as far as singles. Get a single out, an A side, a B side, and download it, check it out. It's, you know, it's kind of going backwards again.
Yeah, and it's
particular.
You know, it's really a kind of a throwback to the 60s and 50s, where it's more of the singles thing. So you know, we're trying to keep the you know, the band name alive. Plus, you know, we have a whole great kind of fun recording songs. We're making music, and it's great. Like, it's, you know, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, that kind of answers my question, but I want to kind of ask it anyway. So, like I said, it's two swings of the bat as far as a major band, or people that stand out to people, right? They know about what you've done after Slik Toxik. So, what, besides what you just said, what kind of motivates you to try this again? Because we all know, if we're being honest, there's not a lot of money to be made in this for older artists doing new bands in this type of climate. So, what drives you to keep doing the bands, keep doing the music that you love, and trying
Well,
to put the bands out there.
because I have to do it. It's one of those kind of things where if you need to write songs and you need to play songs and you need to be a part of a unit and to gel with the guys, that's the biggest thing. Like solo guys, I don't get, because unless they they have solo guys and then their band has been with them since day one, and it's
Right,
like kind
right.
of like a band except the solo guy. But it's the camaraderie, it's the writing the music, it's the feeling the energy, and then playing live, you get that whole energy back from people who are actually digging the songs you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So that's what keeps me in it. Plus it's just the love of music. It's like I love music. I love everything about it. I love to make it. I love to listen to it. I love to, do all that kind of stuff. And to just get rid of it was basically like, for me to walk away from it, it was like chopping off my left arm. And you can't, you can function with it, but not well. So
Yeah.
it's something that I needed to do.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I'm glad you're still in it too, because like I said, a lot of people give
Yeah.
up on it. A lot of people don't want to make it work. They don't want to go to the clubs at night. They don't want to take a van or a bus and go around. They don't want to, put the time and effort into it. They can write songs all day, but if no one's hearing them, you're doing it as a creative outlet. But you want people to hear it, and to get it
Well,
out there
that's it.
is hard these days, especially these days when there's so much out there. There's so much people vying for other people's attention. You can get lost in the mix too. So it's really difficult. People don't understand that, I don't think.
No, they don't. But the biggest thing though is good music, and really good music is out there if you look
Yeah.
for it. And
Yeah.
that's like that's a really good thing. You see these kids who are doing stuff that sounds like Guns N' Roses in the 90s, or like Scorpions in the 80s,
Yeah.
and they're doing
They're
this,
playing
and they're
off a
kids.
sound that used to be, right? And they're hopefully building upon that, but sometimes they're not.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the thing is that they're kids, and they're kids that are like 19, 20 years old, that are doing these songs and writing their songs in the vein of Scorpions and Guns N' Roses, and doing
Yeah.
all these things, and they're keeping that spirit alive, which is amazing. I used to really, really carve on Greta Van Fleet. My wife loves them, so I used to really carve on them. And then I got her an album for Christmas. The something at the Garden Gates or whatever it is, and I put it on and listened to it. They're really good.
Yeah.
And then we went to see them at the Scotiabank Center. We went to see them, and they were fantastic. Just four guys, no backing tapes, no nothing, just going out and then giving it. The Zeppelin comparison is so minimalized, because that's all the singles and hits that they put out, but the rest of the album is like
Right.
it's amazing. Like, they're a
Yeah.
great band, and you know what, I take back any carving I've ever done on them.
Well, they got a lot of support too. They've opened up for Metallica. Obviously, they've got some more
Yep.
shows coming up. They've got a lot of good placements too for young kids. They got
Yep.
a lot going for them. A lot of that is their management and people that's backing them behind them. But they're getting out there, which is good.
Well, yeah, I mean, they have a whole, by the sounds of it, they probably have a whole team of people now, but
Yeah.
it's they're selling out like arenas.
Yeah. No,
Well,
it's
that's
great.
got to say something. That's got to say something.
You said Scotiabank Place. You saw them here in Ottawa? Is that here?
No, the Scotiabank Place here in Toronto. There's
Oh,
two of
okay.
them. I've got
Okay.
the Senators.
Ours
Two.
changed actually.
And,
Yeah, it's true. Actually, now it's Canadian Tire Place. My mistake.
is it Canadian Tire
It's now
Place
Canadian
now?
Tire Place. It was Corral Center. It was the Palladium when it first opened in the 90s, and then Scotiabank Place, Corral Center, Canadian Tire Place now. It's probably going to change soon. Probably going
Yeah,
to be
it's
the Tim Hortons Hair Care Center or something like that's going to change again. Tim Hortons Jiffy Lube.
oh, that's funny. Tim Hortons Hair Care Center. That's awesome.
It's going to happen. I call it.
Oh yeah, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
You talked about this offline, but I want to get enough time to talk about it too. You're doing a book, you're writing a book. What's going on with that? Talk to me about your book,
Okay,
Kevin.
so this has been quite a number of years in the making, and I'll tell you how it started. There's a gentleman by the name of Tyson Bryden, who himself is a great guitar player, but he's also a fantastic writer.
Yes, he
And
is. He writes for Sleaze Rocks. Yeah, I think I've seen a bunch of his articles and
yeah,
reviews.
and,
Yeah, yeah.
he's a great writer, and he's a very good friend. He became a very good friend. Anyway, so back in the Punishment days, he came out to see us at the Rock Pile in Toronto,
Yes.
expecting to hear Slik Toxik or something of that line, when it was never like that. That's never going to be right. So, and he was blown away by it. And then we talked, and then we did some interviews, and then one day I just said to him, I said, dude, I said, I'd really like to write a book. And he goes, I'll write it with you. So we've been kind of writing this book through about the past 3-4 years, and it keeps writing itself because stuff keeps happening.
Right.
And between Tyson and myself, we're busy. We have lives, we have families, we have everything outside of doing that. So we really haven't had time to actually finish it. We're gonna finish it. But yeah, it's a story of just basically, I guess it could be like a memoir of my entire life, and owning all my bullshit, and owning owning a lot of things, and going along those routes, and coming out the other end, right? There's
Right.
a lot of crap that went on, a lot of it my fault, other people's faults, what it doesn't really matter. But what matters is it's a story of redemption, I think. And it's a story of coming from one thing, going to one thing, losing that, getting another, losing that, and then finally coming out the other end alive, and
Right.
coming out. And the story behind it is that, no matter how bad things get in your life, no matter how bad things are, it always changes and gets better. And that's the one thing I really, really wanted to convey with it, is that everything always gets better.
Yeah, there's a story arc there. There's a beginning, there's a conflict, there's something that happens, there's resolution, then there's a happy ending, you'd hope anyway, but
Yeah,
obviously it sounds like it will be. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of there's a whole lot of story, and my wife just keeps like, will you hurry up and finish it? What's Tyson doing? And it's like, when we get the chance,
She's your
we will.
motivator. Yeah. She's your
Big
motivator
time.
to keep going.
Yeah,
Keep going. Don't
big
quit.
time.
Women are
Yeah,
good for that. Yeah.
yeah. Valerie has been a very, very good motivator, and a very big supporter of me. I'm very, very, very grateful for the support I have in my life, everybody that's around me. And it's funny, as you grow, and as you move away from things, people drop out of your life, and they drop out, and they drop out for a reason, because they've served it. And sometimes you try to hold on to them, and they just don't serve your purpose. I try to surround myself with people who I feel are better than me, so therefore that brings me up. My bandmates, I feel that they're all better than me, so that brings my game up. The people that I associate with outside of band stuff and whatever, I feel that they are all better than me. And I don't mean to sound like that I'm not good enough. It just means that
Right.
I see in them things
Keeps
that
you
are.
achieving a level, keeps you trying to reach
That's
a
right.
level without being
That's right.
stagnant. Yeah.
The biggest thing I've learned is that, one of the biggest things I've learned is that you are the company you keep, and
Wow.
you are the people that you associate with. So if you want to associate with people who are not going anywhere, who are not doing anything, that's what you end up becoming. And that, believe me, that happened to me in my life. And looking back on it, writing the book and going through my entire life story was so cathartic, and then I understand myself so much better. It was the best therapy sessions I've ever had. Right. So you basically are spilling out all this stuff from your perspective, of course, but you're spilling out all this stuff, and you're not hiding behind anything. And you're consistently, telling things that sometimes aren't so good, and and aren't so good about yourself. And you need to, and another big thing is owning it, and always owning what you did, not running away from it like we used to when we were kids, or when we weren't mature enough to own the mistakes that we made. You know what? I own this.
Yeah. Point
I got to
fingers.
deal with. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? You point the finger at yourself, and you take responsibility for it, right? That was one of the biggest things, the hardest things I've ever had to do, is take responsibility for myself. And once I did, it felt like a Cadillac came off my back. I mean, when the book comes out, we'll do another one of these, and we can go through it after you read it, and we'll do that. When it comes out, I don't know. We'll get it done. Hopefully it gets done this year. But it just, it's like I said, it keeps writing itself, and there has to be a cutoff point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's for
Right?
for sure. And there's always room for more books too, right?
There's always
If you
room
find
for more
yourself
books.
going over, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
If that
mean,
happens.
there's always rooms for more books, and there's always room for more things in that, for sure. But that's something I really wanted to touch on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that it's again, it's hopefully it people don't just look at it for the respect of it, but also look at it that if they're going through some really difficult times in their life, which a lot of people are, that it does, and it always will get better. But you just have to believe it, and you have to have faith in that it will get better.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you you don't have to say it, but do you have a title in mind, or are you still working on that idea too?
You know, where I had a title in mind, and I'm not sure I like it, so I'm going to keep it kind of hush hush for now, because I think Tyson might say something different. But um, we'll see what happens when it gets closer to the end of it, and then we can sort of say, okay, this is what we'll call it. And again, it's just a 50-50 split between me and Tyson. Like, he's done so much work on this, and it's you know, it's brilliant. And you know what, I had copies of We Had It, and I don't have them anymore. I don't know what happened. I just got a new phone, and I can't find anything on it.
Nice.
And it's
technology.
Right?
Yeah.
I just write songs. That's all I do.
Exactly.
I don't work with technology well.
Think of this as one big song you're writing. This is the lyrics. You've written lyrics before. I assume this is just the lyrics, and you have the music coming later, and you're just getting it all out. So
yeah. You know, it's kind of like that. You know, I don't write lyrics very well. You know, like "Baby, I Love You." It's my lyrics are bad.
Oh, Valentine's is coming up. There you go. You got one already.
Yeah. So that's why I don't sing. Nobody wants to hear that. Remember, everything you've heard cannot.
I was curious about that. Yeah, I was curious about that. If you ever sang in one of your bands, I was expecting you to sing. I thought when you mentioned these new bands, I figured, okay, well, Kevin's going to be the singer and guitarist, but no, you're playing guitar, which is fine. But I just thought, I thought you were going to be singing too.
I mean, I can sing. My wife says I have a nice voice, but you know, when I hear my voice, I'm really uncomfortable. I blend well with vocals,
like background vocals.
Well.
Yeah, you did a lot of that.
I blend well.
Yeah.
But a lead singer, I am not. So
I got you.
Nobody needs to hear that.
for the book, are you writing pen to paper? Are you doing it on a computer? Are you giving stuff to Tyson? Is he doing?
I'm giving stuff to Tyson.
It's your story, right? So he's not really writing it. He's kind of just formatting it, I would imagine, right?
What's happening is like he's recording as
or you're dictating to him.
Along. Yeah, I'm dictating to him, and he's making it concise. Like, because I have a tendency to flap my yap a little too much, and my wife will agree on that. But it's like I have a tendency to talk, and he just sort of edits and puts it together and makes it flow, right? Because it's all about flow, and it's all about everything else like that. So it's all about songs. When songs go, they have a beginning, they have a middle, they have a crescendo, and then they have an end, right? So he puts it all together to make it work. And that's the biggest thing that I cannot do. I can speak it, but I can't write it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you get it all out there, and then he can kind of craft it or shape it into something too, which again is like songwriting a bit too. You might have a whole idea or riff or something, and then they'll shape it. I'm not a songwriter, or a musician, but they shape it into a song, a format, right? That works for the song. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, it's just a matter of being able to put it together so the reader will enjoy what they're reading, as opposed to listening to me just talk nonsense. You know, if we ever do an audio book, I'd really like to get.
I was just thinking that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Kevin was sad that day as the tour had not sold out completely as he'd imagined. That's a bad Morgan Freeman. That's I can narrate it. Maybe I'll narrate it. Right. You get the idea.
I totally get it. Right. So it's it's really been a labor of love for me, and it's really been a labor of being able to being able to learn about yourself as you're doing this, and all these things that happen to you, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's why. And then there's a lot of revelation in it for me. And a lot of people would say, what gives you the right to write a book? Well, you know what? You can write
anybody can write the book. Then write your own book. If you don't like what I say, write your own damn book. Rex Brown from Pantera said that about his guys. He's like, if you don't like what I wrote, well, write your own damn book. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everyone has their truth.
Yeah, and then this is it. I mean, the one thing I found from everybody has cool stories, and everybody has had some cool experiences happen to them, and everybody has. And there's not one person that hasn't had something good happen, and there's not one person that hasn't experienced loss. There's not one person that hasn't experienced extreme happiness and extreme sadness. There's not one person who hasn't experienced these things. I guess that's why the great thing about being human is that we get to experience this human experience, and we get to experience it all and learn from it. Life is nothing but a lesson, period. That's all it is. and everything, there's no wrong choices, there's no right choices, there's only lessons, right? People will say that's wrong, that's right. Well, is it, or is it a lesson, right? Like when you, and I'm not
Learning
talking about
opportunity. Yeah.
I'm not talking about murdering someone. We all know that that's wrong. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's the decisions you make in day-to-day life. You know, are they right? Are they wrong? No, they're lessons and they're teaching moments, right? You're
Yes.
teaching yourself. Life is teaching you, and that's the biggest thing we need to realize, is that life is nothing but a school.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with the way you're putting it, man. That's cool. You're right. You're touching on things in the book, obviously, about your life. That's going to include, obviously, members, former members of your different bands and such. Do you have, are you ever concerned or worried about what you may say in the book? I'm not saying you're going to trash people or whatever, but are you worried about what they might think of it? Are you shying away from other people because, or
Well,
mentioning other people because you're worried that they might
I
offend?
don't like I don't want to carve on people, and I don't want to do that, and that's not something I did. But I will give my perspective on how things went happen, and they might have a completely different perspective on that. Again, it's
Right.
all opinion, right? So, or a perspective. People see things differently. Everybody has a different perspective on
Yeah.
things, and this is from my perspective. If somebody is going to dispute that, then write your own book and give it from your own perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
There you go.
This is my perspective. The facts are there, and any mistakes that I've made and any things that I've done, I'm owning it, and I'm owning every bit of it. And so that's the biggest thing about it. So you can say what you want, but you know what? I'll take my part in this, and I'll take my part of what happens and what went wrong or what went right. I'll take my part.
No, that's good. I look forward to checking that out when it does become
I
available.
will
So I'm gonna
personally
push on
send
you
you a
too.
copy.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'm gonna keep on you too. Then I'm gonna be the second to your wife. I'm gonna say, hey, is that book coming? Is it coming? I'm gonna email you every day after the end, towards the end of 2023. Where's
I'll be
that
like,
book?
gotta get it done.
Gonna get it done. Pressure from
Yeah.
everybody. No, it's
You
cool.
know,
I definitely can't wait to check it out.
yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be definitely an interesting story. And you know, the funny thing is you know, like I talk a lot about when we toured with Yngwie. Now, and this might sound like we're carving on him, but Tyson and I actually, you know, started laughing about a lot of things because Yngwie is over the top,
Yeah.
and Yngwie is, you know, Yngwie is Yngwie, right? Like he's just over the top, and everything's always pronounced and always big and always everything else like that. You know,
Big
big
statement.
hair, big, you know, big Marshalls, big everything, right?
Big statement. Yep.
So
Ego.
Tyson and I wonder if, you know, he wakes up in a puffy shirt and just flies out of bed in his boots and stuff, like that, goes down to his Ferrari and like drives down to the 7-Eleven getting a hot dog, you know, in his boots, listening to I Am a Viking or something, you know, in his
100%.
Ferrari.
100% he does. I don't have to know him to figure that out.
Yeah,
I'm sure other people who have,
like, does he wear track pants? Like, does he just, like, you know, is he like, does he just, you know, is he just comfortable? Like, you know, like,
one thing he doesn't like is donuts. We know that. I don't know if you know that story.
No, he doesn't.
The things we
like
find
donuts.
out, yeah, exactly. No one
You know
likes
what?
fucking donuts.
Yeah, and God love him. Like you know what? Like the guy's an amazing guitar player, and he's just amazing. God love him for being who he is, because for the, you know, the metal guys, they just gives him so much to laugh and joke about. And like, you know, if he ever sees this or everything like that, Yngwie, I love you. I think you're amazing, and I had a great time touring with you. But you know, like you're just Yngwie. You're over the top, and you know what? That's the way he is. He's just like that, and it's just, I'm wondering if he just wears, you know, track pants and, you know, like whatever, and just is comfy and, you know, walking around the house and, like, you know,
it's time for my shirt. Yeah, let's get that shirt on after. Yeah, it's time to go on the stage. Did you have much interaction with him when you toured with him? I assume this is
actually, you know what?
Slik, right?
He was really, really good to us, and he was really, really nice.
This is with Slik, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was really nice to us, and he was really good to us. And
what year was this?
Oh God, it was the Fire and Ice tour. That's all I remember. So it was back then. I don't remember what year it was, but it was a ways back. So we did the US tour with him. Yeah. And he was great, and he was really nice to us, and he, you know, whatever. But he was not very nice to his bandmates, and he's not very nice to those guys. So, but he was good to us, and I will never say anything bad about that, because he was good to us. It's just, like I said, he's just over the top. Like, he's just completely over the top.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it works. It's worked for him for the better part of 30 years, so, and more. So definitely. Yeah.
And you know what? But again, you can't expect that other guys aren't going to look at that and go, "Mah," right?
Yeah.
Just kind of laugh at it, right? Point and laugh. You
Yeah.
can't expect that, right? Because you got to expect it, right? Like, God love him to death, but again, he's just over the top, right?
Yeah.
And we actually devoted a whole chapter to him, the book, because there's
nice.
just so much.
There you go.
Like, there's so much like that was funny. Like, you wonder if he's got, like, the spinning fluffy shirts on a carousel in his
Yeah.
in his
Like a
closet,
walk-in
right?
closet goes around. I want the pinkish one. I want the magenta one. I want the
And he had a
certain
wardrobe
color.
mistress. He had a wardrobe mistress on
Oh yeah.
on tour with him. Her
Yeah.
name was Lydia. She was really super nice, but she was constantly running after him, trying to dress him. And like, dude, it was just there's
Wardrobe change. More than
Yeah,
Axl Rose,
it-
more than
there's-
Elton John. It's a wardrobe change. That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know what? He is the heavy metal Elton John.
There you go. Move over, Axl. You've been replaced.
Oh,
As far as
God.
drama and ego, yeah.
Oh man,
I love it.
That's funny. But God love him. Like I said, we had such a good time with him, and he treated us so well. And I'm, like I said, I'm not carving on the guy. I'm just laughing at
There's a good stories that people want to hear too, obviously.
Yeah, and
lighter
you know
moments.
what?
Yeah.
Like, I love the guy to death. I'm not going to get into too much because there's a bunch.
Yeah,
of
save it for the
stories in
book
that.
too. No freebies here. No freebies here. Yeah, you gotta read the
give
book.
some freebies. I'll give some freebies.
Read the book. Read the book. Support the artist. Yeah. Let
For
me ask
sure.
you a couple of things. Obviously, something you just mentioned too about Slik Toxik. I wanted to ask you this last time. I forgot, but within 8 minutes or so that we have here, as I can see on my little stupid screen here. Did you ever, have you ever, or will you ever, do you play Slik Toxik songs in any of your bands, any of your sets, or are you completely removed from that as far as playing live for people?
I won't play any Slik Toxik with any bands.
Okay.
Unless it was with Slik Toxik.
Okay. What's the reason behind that?
Because that was then, and as I was saying in our last one, that was then, and this is now, and that's part of my past. I don't want to be known as Kevin Gale from Slik Toxik. I want to be known as Kevin Gale, guitar player in Crowning Kings, or Kevin Gale from Crowning Kings. Slik Toxik is what I did. I'm very proud of it, and I think it's great. But it had its time then. Now, if Nick and Neil said to me, "Hey, you want to do a reunion show?" Okay, then I'll play Slik Toxik because that's what we did. So I'm not going to bring that into my new bands for sure. Plus, I'm the only guitar player, so I don't want to do a 2 guitar player band with
right. You don't have that second guitar, which is very.
No.
Let's be honest, it's very important to that sound. If we're being
Yes,
honest,
it is.
right? I think Neil will be down for that reunion. We'll just say that.
I know Neil would be down for that reunion, and I know that he would be up for it. Yeah, because we've talked about it before, and we talked about it, and it was something that was kind of extensive in our conversations. So yeah, he would be very, very much part of it.
From all the members, I think, do you and him talk the most? You and Neil the closest, would you say?
I don't. Neil and I haven't spoke really solidly in a while.
But
no, I don't.
speaking,
really,
no.
Yeah, like I don't. Yeah, I don't really talk to Neil much, and I don't talk to Nick much. So it's when we do, it's really great. Like, hey, how are you? It's.
I'm surprised that about Neil, because I figured you seem to. I had this idea that you had a dynamic, or you still had some kind of conversation there. I'm kind of surprised to hear that.
Yeah, I wish we
both
did.
living in that area. Well, you're in Kitchener, but still, you're not that far away. So
no, I'm not that far. Yeah, like I wish we did still have the discussions we would have, but
kind of surprised to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, just busy and all that sort of stuff. And hey, Neil, if you're listening, I'm always here. You know my number.
Yeah, for sure. That's good to hear. He is busy, as we know. If you listen to his interview, he's a busy man. He's got lots going on with Twirl and his Toxic Child, which I hope gets off the ground for sure too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to the Slik Toxik thing, you don't play it live. Have anyone like you mentioned, Tyson was going there expecting to hear Slik Toxik because you're known for that. Like, being honest, again, people, if they're coming to see, they might recognize your name. If they do, it's probably going to be from Slik Toxik. If they're coming from the old school, they're expecting to hear that. Have you had members of your band, your current band, anyone say, "Hey, let's throw an ST song in there," or they just know you're like, "No, I'm not." They know you're not down.
There's never been a discussion of it. Mark hates playing covers, and I'm not a big fan of playing covers, and that's what it would be like. It would be like,
even though you wrote the music and you're a big part of it still feels like a cover to you because of the different singer.
It would.
And if again, this from what I've heard, the Crowning Kings, Darren is the vocalist, correct?
Correct.
He's got which is cool, but he's got a different voice than Nick. Obviously, it would sound very different, very bluesy sound. It would sound very different than Nick, for sure.
Yes, it would. Yeah, totally.
You may not recognize this Slik Toxik music if we're going to go that route anyway. So it's probably, like you said, better to stand on its own thing, which is cool.
Yeah, and I mean this band could stand on its own, and
Yeah.
that's really what it's that's really what I want to make it all about.
Yeah. So let me ask you, you got rehearsals, you've been doing rehearsals. You got a show coming up this Friday, which we may not
Yep.
get this out in time. So it's going to pass by the time people
Yep.
hear this, but you've got more shows coming up, more rehearsals.
Yeah,
What's going on as far as live work or
there'll be
rehearsals?
more shows. Yeah, there'll be more shows, coming in spring and summer and fall. So there'll be some. I guarantee you we'll be playing more.
Do you have any on the books that you can mention or not yet?
No, nothing yet. Nothing
Okay.
yet.
Okay, we look forward to hearing that. When you do have those, I can post them out too as well. If you have Facebook events, I know you're not on Facebook, which is a shame. But
No.
if you have the band stuff out there, I can post out.
I kind of nuked Facebook about 4 years ago, or 3 or 4 years ago, just because you know what, it was really becoming a complete time waster, and it was something that I really wasn't wanting to be a part of. I am on LinkedIn, but I don't use LinkedIn for that kind of stuff. I do promo some of the Crowning Kings stuff on there, but I don't. But I use it more for learning things for me and TED Talks and all those kind of things. So that's what I really use LinkedIn for.
Well, good. I can tag you on LinkedIn because when I post the first one, I will. I didn't know that, but I'm gonna do that for sure. So you can so you can listen to yourself and listen back, see if you liked it or not.
Yeah.
And you're writing too with Crowning Kings a lot still. Do you think you'll have a new record out by the end of the year or the beginning of next year? Do you have a timetable idea for that?
No, and that's the great thing. There's no real pressure to get in and do it, but we can go in and do that anytime soon. I mean, I know there's always a constant flow of riffs, and there's always a constant flow of songwriting material, and there's always a constant flow of that. Plus, I think we have a really good producer, James Todd, out of London, who did the last 4, and he did a great job on that. And nice. We will be working with him again because he was really fantastic to work with. Great, a different way I've never recorded before. We would take just little parts of the song and just keep and do it that way. And,
really? Wow.
And yeah, it was actually really, really cool to do. Keeps everything in tune, keeps everything. It was really good, and I really, really enjoyed the process with that. So hopefully we'll be doing that again soon enough.
No, that's cool to hear. That's very cool to hear. Let me hit you again for a couple of ST things before I let you go, just in case people haven't listened to the first interview. I encourage people to do that. But if they're just checking this one out, so a couple of things I'll ask you again. I'm probably sure I know the answer to this, but Slik Toxik not together. Do you ever see a scenario where you guys might get back on stage one last time? Let's say you guys were all ready to retire and it was your last go around and you wanted to say goodbye, finish your professional career. Do you think the 5 of you, or maybe 4 of you, however many is available, do you see yourselves ever doing anything again, live or otherwise, with Slik Toxik?
I can only speak for me, and I would love to do it. I would love to do, I'd love to do a show. I wouldn't tour it, but I would love to do a show. It would be a lot of fun. As I said in our last interview, I would love to see how we would approach these songs now at our age.
Yeah.
I would love to see how we would do it.
Yeah, because from what I can tell, you guys could all still do it. I mean, Neil can still drum great. You can still play great. Nick can still sing amazing. He's still with Famous Underground. We know he still has that great sound for what you're at. So that's possible. But again, it depends on so many moving parts. But people have to want to do it. The main guy has to want to do it. Let's be honest. And it has to just make sense, as we mentioned before.
That's right. It has to make sense.
Yeah, exactly. One last thing then. So Slik Toxik, big part of your career. You wrote a lot of songs for that. They're a big part of you. Do you have and it's like picking your kids, but do you have a favorite song or a moment? Or if people wanted to check out, if they're just hearing it for the first time, where would you point them? What song, which album, what stands out for ST for you?
My favorite song to play live with Slik was Sweet Asylum. I loved playing that song. I love this.
How'd I know that? Yeah. I had that in my idea.
I love playing the song, and I loved playing that, and I loved the band interaction we would have on stage with that. I really enjoyed that a lot.
That's great to hear, man. It's going to cut out, so I want to make sure people check out Crowning Kings, go to the Facebook page, check out dates, check out music videos online. Kevin's been great as usual. We'll keep in touch.
You're awesome.
I hope.
Thank you.
You're awesome, man, and we'll keep talking. I can't wait to talk about the book. Get that book done.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you, brother.
No problem, man. Talk soon. Take care, Kevin. Be well.
You got it.
Take care,
Ciao.
buddy.